Good evening and welcome to the fourth outing of the Construction Collective. I'm one of the hosts, Mark Anthony. My co-host, Peter Haddock, will be joining us shortly. I can see him lurking in the green room. He will be joining us socially distanced, of course. You'll be also pleased to know that since we last all convened, all three founder members of the Construction Collective have now received their COVID vaccination, which means you can all feel free to rub up against us whenever you feel like. No, I'm being told by my wife there is to be no rubbing. Now, we don't normally do news on these shows. If you want news, you can tune in to my daily show, 10 a.m. each weekday, which is a shameless plug. But earlier today, we received news that was timed so perfectly that we just had to include it in the show tonight. And that news is the fact that Volvo Construction Equipment has pulled out of the Bauma 2022 exhibition. Before I get the good Mr. Haddock onto the show to discuss this further, let's take a look at what Bauma 22 will be missing.
Well, wow, Mark, that is certainly a show, isn't it, that they put on at Bauma? And I've got to be honest, I've only been to the actual show once before, and that was some time ago. And I remember going through 42 pairs of shoes just walking around. And it's certainly something I'd have stopped to take a breather for. And a real interesting move from Volvo, but not unexpected, because we were both at ConExpo where there was a Volvo stand with nobody on it, weren't we?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you and I are both huge exhibition fans. I think we're both huge Volvo fans as well. But, I mean, this does speak, as you say, rightly, to a wider narrative that we've seen effectively since ConExpo last year. Obviously, we've seen various other shows being pushed back and that kind of thing. But it is interesting that they've made that announcement right now.
Yeah, it is. And I think, the thing is, what's really interesting is I've already, as you know, worked with the team at Volvo Construction Equipment and their dealer SMTGB just a few weeks ago, launching their new electric range, which is both a wheel loader and an excavator, which are actually bigger than expected, as in their capacity and size and capabilities. So, they have still got a job to do. And I think I'd like to hope that they use the advantage to have shows in the UK to actually get close to their people. And I don't think they're not going to do that, because really, when you read into it, what they're saying is actually, Bauma to them is obviously too much of a risk at the moment, but they've reassessed. And I think they're going to help their dealers more to actually do events where they can bring people closer to their equipment. And we certainly hope that one of those events is the one that we're going to kick off the show with in its physical form, because for me, events super important, absolutely the lifeblood of the industry. Mark, if you can't see a piece of mobile equipment working, then you don't know its capabilities. You can't understand the size, the scale, and how it can interact with other machines by simply looking at a video. I'm sorry, you just can't do it. And that purr of the engine as well, so important, so vital to get what we say the stick time on the machine, or at least be there to understand how new things work in the real world and real live applications, not just testing grounds, for example.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, the Volvo have mentioned the fact that they are embracing digital platforms. You and I are speaking on one such digital platform at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think just as importantly, next week is the first ever Hillhead Digital exhibition. And Peter, you've been finding out a little bit more about that, haven't you?
You know what? I have always loved Hillhead, Mark. You know, it's been one of those events, rain, shine, wind, everything. You get the lot. But I have been on those stands, and I've got to say, being at Hillhead is one of the most exhilarating, and when you're trying to do content and bring all the journalists together, crazy shows that you can go to. And some people like to say, well, could we have it every year? But it's just, it's just not possible to do that. I can remember the last really cool thing that I absolutely loved is we went into Hillhead when I was working with Finning at the cat dealer, and we literally had a dozer there. I think it was a D11, huge dozer, that we were sat in the Hillhead quarry, and we were operating that in Arizona. And it was just incredible. And of course, what I was talking about earlier, those fantastic displays that you have on not just a Finning stand, but JCB and the other areas, the demonstration areas around the whole facility there at Hillhead, just show us that scale. And as you talk through all the different things, and as we have more technology, like technology, that's what the show's all about, Mark. You have all this technology, you can visualize it in screens and see what's happening. Just so interactive, so important, but great to see Hillhead Digital coming along, because obviously we are in difficult times at the moment. Shows sensibly have to be cancelled, Mark, because we fundamentally have to get this economy moving again, and we have to respect and care for our members of staff as well. But Hillhead's going to be coming back next year in 2022, and we know we're going to the show, Mark, because we've already booked the accommodation that we'll be sharing with you, me, Nick, Fred, and probably a few other people that will come in and have some fun with us. But before I chat any further, Mark, I've actually gone and talked to Richard Bradbury, a great friend of mine, someone that's always helped me at Hillhead do the fun things, the craziest things, and also get the message out there. I've spoken to him about Hillhead Digital. So let's go and speak to him, shall we?
Let's have a look.
So for the next part in the show, I've got Richard Bradbury. He's on the show. Richard, hello, and thanks very much for coming on the show.
Hello, Peter. Hello.
I've known you for years now, and we've always come to you to go, look, Richard, can we do some great stuff? Can we have some fun with the show? And this is why I wanted to bring you on, Richard, because you, like many others that are running a show, have had to make difficult decisions to cancel and postpone shows. But what I really love about you guys is you've gone, right, we've never done it before, but we know we need to do something. And you've got Hillhead Digital, haven't you? Tell me what it's all about, Richard. It's free for starters, isn't it? So tell me about what it's about.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's free to participate and be part of the event. You just go on to register via hillhead.com/digital, or you can also register on ag-net.com. The event is live for 2 days at the end of this month, the 30th and 31st of March, from 9 till 5. Although the platform itself has actually been open since the beginning of last week, since the 15th of March. That's to give people the opportunity to have a good look around the platform, to start downloading content, bookmarking seminars that they might want to attend, arranging appointments with exhibitors for the live days, having a good play around on there, networking with other people that in the industry. It's a new venture for us. It's our first digital Hillhead. Steep learning curve, really important to educate people how to use the platform. Also great to have lots of feedback from our exhibitors and visitors.
Yeah, and I think when I've been delving into the platform, what really struck me straight away, Richard, was the fact that you've actually not just got the sort of digital stands there and everything like that. And we're going to talk to one of those stand people a bit later on that I've been working with to support their content. But you've also got a conference on which actually has my favorite subjects being discussed. So we've got decarbonisation, we've got digitalisation, got infrastructure, we've got a spotlight on the industry, and we've got sections about people. Those are all the things that I've been talking about, Richard, in a lot of my content. It's really important to get leadership out there right now and for people to understand what's going on, isn't it? So tell me about the conference bit as well, please.
We wanted to get, the industry talking about the challenges that it's got to face over the next decade, but also celebrate some of the progress that has been made in those areas. So we've chosen those themes which we think are, the most important themes going forward. In total, we've got about 70 presentations, 12 panel discussions. Presentations are pre-recorded, and then at the end of each presentation, there is a live question and answer. Obviously, it's all about getting on there and exploring and making the most of it.
That's fantastic, Richard. Listen, all the best of luck for the show and the event. It's great to see you supporting the industry. Thanks once again to you, the team at the QMJ Group, and also all of those that have helped and participated to make Hillhead Digital a really large show. We're not talking small, are we, Richard? There's a lot of exhibitors in this, isn't there?
You've got just over 300 exhibitors, 70 speakers. So, no, but you're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me on, Peter.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, as you can see, Peter, we're getting comments in on Hillhead Digital. The guys at Astrac are going to be there, which is great to see. We are going to get to somebody else that's going to be there in just a second. But just to go on with the comments, our friend Ken Hatcher, the knower of all things, has just popped up. Good evening, Ken. Good to see you here, as always. Who else have we got? Nick Drew is in the house. We've got Alexander Lipkin. Good evening, Alexander. Great to see you here. We will go through these in a second. I'm going to big this one up because I think they're talking about me. Yeah, nice T-shirt. If that's Cheryl, thank you very much indeed for sending it. Yeah, Peter's is quite nice. Quite nice. Now, Peter mentioned in his film that we were planning to speak to one of the companies taking part in Hillhead Digital, and I'm delighted that Barry from Miller is actually waiting in our green room. I've actually worn this T-shirt just to make him feel at home, really. So good evening, Barry. Let's get you on the show.
Good evening, Mark. You all right, guys?
All very well indeed. Peter, I'm going to leave you to take care of this one.
And I'm taking care of this one, Mark, because I met Barry for the first time the other day when I went up to the home of quick couplers, Mark. That's what it's known. It's got this big plaque that says, this is the home of quick couplers. And they do some buckets and stuff as well. But basically, I found out that those guys wanted to do something really fun for the launch of some of their great products that they're bringing to market. And, what a great reception you have up there in the Northeast. My mum's from Newcastle upon Tyne, so I know a great bunch of people, and interacting with them ever since on social media has been great fun. But Barry, why Hillhead Digital, and why are you getting involved with the show?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the trade shows, they really are like a cornerstone for our business. And, we tend to do a number of global shows around the world. And as everybody knows, obviously, COVID's had a catastrophic impact on that. And, when you've got product launches to go on and these shows aren't around, you have to look at new platforms. The traditional marketing ways just are no longer there. So we're trying to embrace the new technologies, and we think this platform certainly gives us the right platform to deliver some our new technologies, definitely.
And Barry, you've got some really cool stuff. I've seen it. And so what are people going to be able to see on your stand, Barry? And how can they sort of join you there?
Yeah, I mean, it was key to us when we started putting it together that we created some form of journey for the customers that were coming on. We wanted to make it interesting. So we had yourself along doing a nice virtual walk around the product, so people get a real insight of the new GTS and the new GTX. Obviously, it doesn't replace Hillhead. It doesn't replace what you said before about the smell and the feel, but it's probably the closest thing that people have had over the last 12 months with regards to interacting with the new products. They also have the opportunity to download some of the our sales brochures, the PowerPoints, but also, interestingly, they have the opportunity to set up meetings with the sales guys, the marketing guys. So, you know, if you've got like a product inquiry or you just want to find a little bit more, you can set up these 15-minute interviews and, you know, you can get in touch and find out.
And I think that's really important, Barry, because, you know, we're human beings. We really have different things to ask, different questions, different products, different applications in which we're working. And so it's really important to be able to speak to an expert about something and have that one-to-one, isn't it? And, you know, we've seen it at shows. You know, you've seen people going into that set area, or you see people talking and you know, there's certain engineering types of individual that will look at specifics and things like that, haven't they? So yeah, it's really important that we do that. But Barry, the most important thing is actually you've got some cool new products. You mentioned them there, but you just mentioned the words GTX and GTS. What are they, Barry? And tell me, why should people come and discover them? Because I think they're pretty cool, but what are they?
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of them as well. They are our next generation of quick couplers. We've entered the market from a compact side of things, where we see a real opportunity for fully hydraulic compact quick couplers. I think, as we talked the other day, couplers have been widely accepted in the heavy excavator market for a long time now, and people are understanding the real benefit of the safety, the versatility that these bring. And we're seeing a lot of interest over the last 12 months in fully hydraulic quick couplers from compacts from as little as 1 ton. So that's really exciting for us. We've had some really positive sales over the last 12 months in that new marketplace. And then from a big side of things, we've brought out the GTX for big heavy excavators, which is our new quick coupler, which replaces the power latch. And it really has got some novel technology inside of it, certainly from an ISO 13031, which I won't spoil the secret because it's in the interview that you'll be able to see on Hillhead Digital next week.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, we've brought you into the show, which is about technology, Barry, because people forget that the attachments, like your quick coupler, the things that we use on machines and in machines, are all about technology and how technology has advanced their capabilities. And you've got a design team that's not just in the UK. There's a global team working on your products, isn't there? Tell me about how you've used technology to get this new range without giving too much away.
Yeah, I like the lead there. You know what? We challenged our design engineers from a very early stage to look at all elements of the quick coupler. We do things a little bit differently at Miller. We use casting technology. We've been in the casting technology area for over 20 years now. We've got a good level of experience. We've got engineers who are stress test engineers. They understand the forces that are implied through excavators. They understand the MagnaFlow in terms of how you can create and design and mold coupler technology where you can add strength and take weight away from elements. And then you can put it through the most extreme testing to ensure that you have a really strong, solid cast quick coupler. And also, we challenge them with the internal side of things. Safety is really, really critical for our industry. It's got to be ISO compliant. And we challenged the norm. And, we looked at what we had existing with our power latch. We've streamlined it. We've removed all of the major components, and we've actually put the technology built within the RAM itself, taking it from the aircraft industry. And that's as much as I'll say for now.
Okay, well, Barry, that's a big touchdown moment for you. We've landed this interview very well. And I think we're going to taxi on to the next interview, Mark, because we can't give too much away from the team at Miller, because you're going to have to listen to me at Hillhead Digital explaining it all, folks.
I suddenly feel like there's an in-joke here that I'm not party to. So, yeah, I mean, certainly from the GTX point of view, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Wearing my demolition hat, quick couplers have really changed the landscape in the demolition business. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So look forward to seeing you at Hillhead Digital, Barry.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and always, guys, cheers for having us back on. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Barry. Take care.
Yeah, no.
So Barry's going to take off now, Mark. Oh, there's another clue for you.
I really feel like an outsider all of a sudden. Now, obviously, Miller isn't the only big name taking part in Hillhead Digital, Peter, and you would know this better than anyone. Our friends over at Leica Geosystems are also going to be there as well.
Yes, and what's really important about this element is the fact that Hillhead Digital has done something that I'm really impressed with, Mark, because you know what I'm about. I'm all about technology. I'm all about talking about technology in a holistic way, giving people information about what's available now, what's happening now, and what's the future now, or the future in a few months or even years' time. And I think what's really interesting about Hillhead Digital is they've recognized that people need that information now. And so what they've done is they've created industry topics, and so they're topics that are really important right now. So we've got the whole Build Back Better government agenda that people know is really focusing on how we do things better, more productively. And we've accelerated so much collaboration from all the way from the Construction Leadership Council, all the way down to how we develop and support people digitally throughout the whole process, whether it's learning or whether it's development of new equipment. And so we've got a big job to do in this country. We've got some big jobs like HS2 and Highways England to do in this country. So, the great thing is they've got topics like decarbonisation. So we're talking everything. A friend of mine, Chris Matthew from Flannery, always likes to talk about well to track. And I keep talking about it because it's so, so important. It's like how much energy goes into making everything, putting it there, keeping it running, and getting the operators into the cab, and how much of that can we change by changing the methods in which we use technology or new equipment and solutions. So decarbonisation, infrastructure, we've talked about huge projects at the moment. People, Mark, we've had our most successful start to the year by talking about people. And we felt at the end of last year that we weren't doing ourselves justice without bringing people into the equation. So we did the last show, obviously, about careers and about people. And, people are very important. And obviously, we've got, from a Hillhead Digital perspective, we've got this element called Industry Spotlight, which is putting a spotlight on certain elements of the industry as well that need to be talked about for the people that would come to Hillhead. So that's great. But, Mark, the final one of all of that is my favorite subject of all time, favorite subjects, digitalization. And one of the speakers for that is Neil Williams from Leica Geosystems. And I managed to, unbelievably, catch up with him yesterday afternoon. And fortunately, the sun was shining. So I grabbed some time with him, sat next to the excavator at their school in Shropshire. So roll the tape, buddy.
I'm here at the school with Leica. We're hiding behind the wind. It's a very windy day today, but this is a great opportunity I've got to talk to Neil Williams, who heads up the heavy construction division of Leica Geosystems, just before Hillhead Digital. Neil, you're one of the main speakers at the conference for digitalization. Yeah. And it's really important that people understand why they should be tuning in to Hillhead Digital and how to find you. Talk to me about digitalization and what's been happening and how you've integrated things at Leica Geosystems.
Okay, but one of the first things I always talk about is people use the term digital construction. Yep. I like to call constructing in a digital way. Right. I don't like the term digital construction so much. I think we're trying to create another mystery around what's happening, and to me we're just constructing in a digital way, which is now the norm. And I think it's all down to people being educated correctly, understanding what they're actually looking for, not having data for the sake of data, so they're having useful data. Yeah, it's adopting the technology in order for them to obtain this data and working from one single source of the truth. You'll hear that being seen all over it time and time again, and to me, that's what it's about.
And I think it's really important, because what we've had is a real confusion out there over the last few years, because people are getting data from this model here, BIM model over here, that needs to be transferred to this format to go into that thing, and it's not the case, is it? You've now got MC1, which is your machine control solution, but that actually doesn't just work for machines like this. It actually takes in information from things like your ground penetrating radar, for example. It's about this amalgamation and making it simple, isn't it? Talk to me about that.
Well, it's really just connecting all the sensor technology together. Mapping the underworld is a big area of concern in the UK. We need to avoid cable strikes. And in order to avoid cable strikes, rather than detect them, we should really map them. Once we've marked where they are digitally, as well as physically in some cases, we then need to import that into a data that we use for the machine control, and that creates a layer, and then the operator can see clearly, I need to avoid that area. Another layer of protection that we brought in is what's called an avoidance zone. So as the operator drives the machine towards that area, then it will give them an audio alarm. What will happen in the future? Again, integrating technologies would be that the machine goes into creep mode and then slows as it goes towards the avoidance area.
The other things I wanted to talk about are really the next journey. I've seen the semi-autonomous Cabelco unit with Plant Force recently. We're seeing more of that coming, but everybody's talking about the next steps, and what are they and what can we expect?
For me, it's semi-automatic, then fully automatic, semi-autonomous, and then autonomous. Semi-automatic exists now. When we move into fully automatic, then both functions of the dipper arm and the stick come into action. Then obviously autonomy means that you may not be sat in the machine, but you will be still operating the machine, but autonomously as in remote. And then fully autonomous is when the machine is in an environment where other machines are also in autonomous world, and then they carry on their duties. The operator is key to all this.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got the school, is we believe that the operator needs to be trained correctly and respected, and not to fear technology but to adopt it, and that's why we've built the facility.
So it's Neil, he might head up the heavy construction division, but he's the operator's friend as well. Thanks very much for inviting me down here at the school.
Well, Mark, I just dropped out with my internet in that section, so I've just had to come onto my iPhone. That just shows the impact of learning how to use technology, getting myself back on the show when it all went horribly wrong.
Trust me, I noticed, and I was sat here wondering how I was going to do the rest of the show without you, to be perfectly honest.
My goodness, so was I.
That was an important final point on that video with Leica there, Peter. The advent of technology doesn't mean the end of the physical operator, does it?
No. Look, we have a lot of debate about this in the industry, and this is what I love to actually have a debate about, and why I love going on site, and why it's been so sad or frustrating that I haven't been able to go on site recently, because I always want to get the operator's perspective. Now, you saw an operator in that cab for Plant Force there, a guy's name called Chris. He's an operator. He's got about 13 years experience, one of their best operators. Now, that semi-automatics machine, that Cabelco, has got a Leica geosystems piece on it. It's got an SMT or P, I can't remember, SMP tilt rotator, and basically he's one of their most experienced operators. And, and he's been trained and he's learned on it. And he's basically saying in a video that I did, you can find it on my channels, about actually how it's impacted him. And basically, he's talking about the fact that it's a guidance system that he can use. It can also just dig normally, get down to levels, and then use the system. So these are guidance systems and support systems. And one of the things we haven't talked about, which I did in a longer interview with Neil there, is actually fatigue. And with people doing long shifts, with big projects, with fewer operators out there, the demands on people are going to be quite severe. So fundamentally, what we've got to do is make sure that everyone knows how to use technology well, understands it's there for the right reasons, and that their managers understand how that technology works so they can support an operator. Because the operator is the brains on the site. And so that operator now can use this technology to get points when they've actually done the as-built section of a project, for example. So they can become operator surveyors, and their value increases in their value on site. And obviously, they've got to be trained right. And that's why Leica have invested in a school. It's got all the training facilities. It's got simulators. It's got a zone where you've seen there you can actually look at how you can manage the underground utilities and look at where they are on site, how you can create models, all that sort of stuff. It's there as a school, as a teaching tool, and we need to see more of that, and we have. I recently for our last show, I went to Flannery's Operator Training Hub, Operator Skills Hub, sorry. And that's, they've invested a lot of money in a joint venture with Balfour Beatty to train people and bring people into the industry safely. And again, they're using simulators there and a dig area, because you've got to be able to do things safely, haven't you?
Absolutely. As always, our comment section is where the real talent lies. We've had a question. I don't know if you can answer this one, Peter, or whether there is anybody from Leica paying attention to this. How accurate is this? Is it 100 mil? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure that somebody in the audience may be able to tell us.
It's a different. I think we can get down to about 30 mil, but the tolerance elements can be set by the operator, and I guess that the tolerance elements are really set by the project and the site. But I'd have to say that off the top of my head, I thought it was something like 30 mil, but I'm not going to put bet my house on it, but we can certainly find out that information. In fact, it is in the video interview I did with Chris, where he put the tolerances on that. But with this, it's all around the design tolerances more than anything, because actually that's what we're digging to. But these systems now are very, very accurate, and I wouldn't say tiny millimeter accuracy, but certainly very accurate indeed.
We've also had a very detailed comment there from Alexander, all the way from Sweden, and there's a couple of points there. It's been a long while since Sweden didn't have or didn't build anything without GPS, which I think is interesting, and he backs up everything that you were saying there about the importance of learning that from the ground up. There is a bit of me that when you think about the advent of GPS, and when you think about the embracing of things like quick couplers and more specifically tilt rotators, if anybody wants to get a handle on what's going to happen in the construction industry in the UK in the next few years, go to Scandinavia, because those guys are really, really pushing the envelope, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is a lot of their technologies have been integrated, and a lot of the government work that's been done, Mark. So there's a software system that is used quite a lot called InfraKit over in Scandinavia, and that's an open source platform. So it takes in data from any device, any GPS machine control, any models and stuff like that. And so that allows people with mixed fleets, and most people have got mixed fleets on big projects, to actually manage their project effectively in an open source way, which is accessible. And we now see lots more visualization coming through either handheld devices or connected devices, like Sight Vision from Trimble, for example. And with that, what we're able to do is visualize where we are now and where we are going to be in a week, and what is going to happen with that. So it really is, the benefit for me of digitalization is visualization, because if you can get everybody to understand what goes where and why, one, you can understand why people need to do things. Two, you can make proper decisions. Like I talked to Mark Lawton of Skanska, and he said, look, we took a visualization model. There were some big trees to the left. We looked at where the design was for a pathway, and we just changed it slightly, so we didn't have to take those trees out, and we'd have a better landscape, for example. And then bringing other members of staff, like an office worker, into that environment and showing them what's going to go there, so that they can feel more part of the project. So I think, we've seen that working, and I think we've seen the integration in Scandinavia. It's coming here, it's coming rapidly. And why? because, first of all, Highways England mandated in their raising the bar the use of machine control. And that meant that there was no new Highways England projects that weren't going to be built without machine control. All of a sudden, we have machine control literally exploding, you know, and it takes those big organizations, the big client organizations, and like HS2 to do that and to invest in it and to support their contractors and the people that they want to do it financially so that they can invest in the equipment. Because let's be honest, it's not cheap to buy a brand new excavator. It's not cheap to buy that with all the bits and all the attachments and all the things that you need to be super efficient. So, you know, those organizations are now working much more collaboratively with the industry. And I think it's because of the work that has been done, and actually the fact-based work that has been done. So you can turn around and go, we can see this works. Here's a model. Here's where we started on the project, and we went all the way through this project. We collected all of the data, and there it works. And so, and that's it.
It never ceases to amaze me, the sort of thing that we get in our comment section. Here in the UK, we get all excited about the fact that we have to contend with rain and snow. In Sweden, apparently, they deal with solar flares. Hadn't even occurred to me.
No. I thought they were stuff that you just put up there to when you're on a boat stranded in a lake or a small puddle, Mark.
That may well be the case. Yeah, it may well be the case. Now, obviously, we've been talking about Hillhead Digital, and in both its physical and its digital incarnations. Hillhead is first and foremost a quarry show, and we're going to stick with that quarry theme as we go through now. A key part of the technological revolution, which obviously you and I saw in ConExpo, is the introduction and embracing of telematics and remote monitoring systems. And until recently, I think most of those have been the preserve of big machines, so excavators, wheel loaders, dump trucks. Yeah. But you can always, we're back in Scandinavia again, you can always rely on those clever folks in Finland to push the envelope. Yes. And if anyone was going to bring the benefits of telematics to the attachments market, it was going to be the pioneers and innovators at Rama. Check this out.
Oh, and you've got the finish at the bottom, mate. Well done.
Absolutely. If anybody is confused by that hopefully, if Google Translate is verified, that should say good evening to our Finnish friends, because I think we've got one or two people from Rama tuning in tonight. Now, obviously, that film focused very much on quarrying, as we mentioned, but wearing my demolition hat, as I often do, I can certainly see the benefit of that system in things like overnight bridge demolition, where contractor is working against the clock and unplanned downtime isn't even an option. That ability to spot potential faults in advance, that's a vital consideration now. And I think that's a key part of telematics, Peter, isn't it?
Yeah, well, first of all, Mark, it's about the health of that machine, and that's where that's come from. It's always like about the health of the machine, but actually something like that, the most important thing is that hammer that's doing the work. So you can monitor the health of that hammer, and you can understand whether it's starting to feel a little bit poorly before you're even getting onto a big project like that. You can get that serviced and looked at, and in the past, Mark, what people would have to do with things like that is have spares sat there just in case. Well, that is hugely expensive, you know, and it just is not something that's viable for businesses. And taking that telemetry a step further down the line is really important. But more important, Mark, is actually that integration I talked to you about, because what we need to do is make sure all of these systems work so that a contractor or an organization that is the service organization, for example, can be alerted as to when there's a health issue potentially with the machine or with that rammer device. Sorry, I'm getting myself muddled up, and therefore send somebody to site in record time. And actually, the most important element of that is having somebody turning up on site and going, we just fix your potential problem. And you go, whoa, okay, that's fine. Or actually, we just scheduled this servicing because we know you've got a day's downtime. So we're not going to utilize any of your time when you need to be working. Even better.
Absolutely right. Now, we've said some very nice things about the Finns. We said some nice things about the Swedes. We had one very big British manufacturer on earlier, and it's about time we looked at another one, I think. Peter, I know you've been to see the team at Digbits recently, and I know you came away describing their manufacturing technology as Formula One. I'm going to let somebody tell me about that in a second. But first of all, let's take a look at the sort of thing that you were talking about. Yeah, I could ask you all about this, but I'd much rather get it direct from the source. So let's welcome Digbits' Marcus Clay onto the show. He's been waiting patiently in the green room. Good evening, Marcus. Man alive, that's a fine T-shirt you're wearing there, sir.
Isn't it fantastic? Yeah, you've seen it here first. Yeah, good evening, Mark and Peter. Yeah,
Mark, Peter. I've got to say, you have gone head to head there with Marcus on the T-shirt front. I'm just going to fade into the background. But yeah, you know what, Mark? What's been really cool is that I've only met Marcus recently this year. We did a podcast with him because I was really interested in how UK manufacturers were coping with Brexit, but also with the huge upturn in the industry. And we got down into the trenches with the trenching buckets, which were very popular at the start of the year with all this rain. And then Marcus invited me to come and have a behind the scenes look at the business. And I'm doing a series now called Exploring Digbits series, which goes behind the scenes of the business. And so I was like, there's not going to be much going on here in a business like that. They're making buckets and attachments. It's not going to be technology. It's not going to be, whoa, boy, oh boy, was I wrong, Mark, because these guys are using Formula One robots, the robots that are used in Formula One manufacturers of the cars that go round super fast, Mark, in making their attachments. Marcus, why and what on earth are you doing with that much technology in Digbits?
It's a good question. I'm not exactly sure why. We started down the line with those Mazak CNC machines in 2010. And I think the idea that we had was what could do a lot could do a little. And we thought, well, they seem to be pretty much pick of the bunch. And as you rightly say, they've had a long-standing partnership with McLaren Formula One. And we thought, well, you know, that's probably the right way to go. Their machines in particular, they've got their own programming language called Mazatrol, which it dispenses with using the longer-winded normal machine code to program the CNC machines. So programming is quicker and faster. And we like that idea too. So we took the plunge with 2 of those machines in 2010. They were automated machines, but they weren't with a robot. The robot machine came later. That robot machine that you saw in the video was 2019 that was installed. But we've been looking at automation in other areas of the business as well. So even in the warehousing, back in 2015, we got the first of what's called the modular vertical storage machines in the UK. It's the first 9-meter tall machine that they installed in the UK. It's got 60 odd shelves, which we can fill with up to 990 kilograms of components on each level. So there's a lot of kit in there. But even cleverer, it's got machine learning. So all of these shelves, obviously you've got from ground level all the way up to 9 meters. You can run a program every few weeks on the machine, and it reorders the shelves in priority. So the ones you use the most end up at the bottom, so they're fastest to serve out. So it's an intelligent machine in and of itself. And we've just tried to do all of these things to sort of improve the productivity and the safety in the business. And it's something that's ongoing. We're still looking at extra machines this year.
And yeah, Marcus, I think what's really interesting from where I've gone and talked to your team is also it's actually your design process is very, I don't know, it's unique because from my perspective, I've never seen something like that before. But actually, you have told me that you can design, yes, you've got a range, but you can also design bespoke attachments. But you can design things and you'll know the materials that go in, you know, the weights, you know, the capabilities of that before you even fabricate it. And that's just a bit nuts to me. Tell us a little bit about how the old design element works with your attachments. And it's not just buckets we're talking about here, it's rakes and other things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So generally speaking, we'll take something from, you know, it might be sort of literally on the back of an envelope sketch, and we'll take that into the CAD system, create a sketch, then we can create a part, then we can create from all of those parts, we can assemble a product. So out of all the different components, and you put in the material properties as you go along. So we have saved material properties. We then go for things like weight and stress analysis off the CAD system, and I'm sure, you know, as you were looking earlier at Miller with the design of their couplers, you know, with this GTS, which looks very interesting to us, they will use an even higher level of that technology because they're manufacturing in volumes, and so they're looking even closer at saving weight and increasing the strength and all the rest of the properties within that. But we can do that almost on the fly. We can certainly assemble something from scratch within a few hours, and we can have a rough idea of stresses in the different parts of it, and we can have a rough idea of the actual final assembly weight, and that's all done through the SolidWorks CAD and the analysis tools that are in there.
And this is why, Mark, I wanted to bring in Marcus, because, you know, people don't understand that technology in this industry isn't just about 3D machine control or a cloud-based system up here. It's about how we make things work in the industry. And the one thing that I'm really interested in as well, Marcus, is the way in which you work with more advanced materials and how that actually comes into play, because you use something called Hardox, which I'd never heard of before, Mark. It's a type of steel from Scandinavia, Mark. Another genius moment from Scandinavia, which Marcus and his team use. It's very lightweight and abrasive. But, you know, Marcus, you're bringing different materials in, and you're bringing that whole element in to understand how that thing on the end of the excavator can be more efficient, more productive, and the longevity can be increased, for example. Tell me about that.
All of the mechanical properties of any of the metals that we use are within the material database within the SolidWorks CAD. So you see the CAD, assembly, and as you're going through, you can chop and change what material each part of the design is made from. And from that, we can then run the stress analysis, so we can see where the stresses are, whether the part's strong enough. We can weigh it, so we can see where we want to take weight out. And you can actually optimize the design, but you can cut holes out of it and rerun the stress analysis and see if you've created any stress raises in a part. But you can do all of that within the CAD. And certainly with the Hardox, the material was something that we began using because it was very highly wear resistant, but we didn't really realize at first, a long time back when we started using it, we didn't really realize at first how strong it was compared to even a good grade of mild steel. So the sort of steel that you'd build a steel portal frame for a building out of might be sort of 300 to 400 newtons. And Hardox, despite being very, very high wear resistant, it's over 1,200 newtons. It's nearly 1,300 newton strength, so it's incredibly strong. And one of the ways that Swedish Steel are able to deliver that and control that is all the ore for that is mined in the Arctic Circle. So it's kind of a bit of a unique type of steel. It's very special. And they're now moving towards trying to completely reduce the sort of carbon footprint of their production process. That's their next level of innovation, basically. So they've pretty much nailed the material spec. Now they're nailing the environmental spec.
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, this whole decarbonisation element of the industry as well, Marcus, the topics of Hillhead Digital. But equally, Marcus, I think what's really important is actually that material is going to be used to extract that ore for the material. And that's probably the best way to reduce carbon in that process, using one of the ore buckets to do that. But Marcus, look, wrapping up the elements here, the technology, are you finished now? Are you, because you're Formula One, are you stopping, or what's happening next with the technology drive at Digbits?
No, it doesn't stand still. I think we've got the robot that was on the video earlier that you saw in our workshops. There will be another one of those, but on a different machine. So the one that you saw was on a turning type machine, and the next one's going to go into what we'd call a vertical machining center that we've got. So it's going on to integrating with an existing machine. And then in terms of the sort of storage machines, we're probably going to be onto our third 9-meter machine in the warehouse this year. So we're really, we're really moving forward with that. And then, the other robots, robot welding processes that we are looking at for both large components and small components. So there's probably sort of, if you like, 4 separate projects that we're looking at, that we are trying to sort of get moving into the metal within the next 20, probably 12, 24 months.
Fantastic, Marcus. Look, it's great to see a business literally down the road from me, Mark. Great to see a business. If you go in there, you can eat your dinner off the floor as well, because they really look after the site there. Marcus, great to have you on. Thank you very much for staying at Digbits and joining in the T-shirt war tonight. Great to see you. I'll be back at Digbits pretty soon, folks, because I'm going to be talking about robotics next. There'll be a video out next week where I explore the robotics, in fact. And then there's some special stuff coming out with one of your senior executives, Murray. Won't give that away too much yet, Marcus. But thanks very much for coming on to the show and explaining why technology is so important in the manufacture of your attachment.
That's great. Thank you for speaking to us, and have a good evening, gentlemen.
Many thanks indeed, Marcus. Great to see you.
Thanks. Now let's get this back onto the proper layout. Oh, apparently you're on the left now. I don't even know. Now, when we think about technology, and we have been thinking about technology a lot over the past 53 minutes, well, I think we all tend to think about things like operator aids that make us more productive, and we think about alternative fuels that make us more environmentally friendly. But technology can also play a key role in keeping us all safer. So check out this superb new film from the team at Foss Lighting.
That was good, Mark.
It's pretty good. I had Foss Lighting's Andrew Comitry on my show not so long ago, probably about 2 weeks ago, and some of the stuff those guys are doing is phenomenal. It was only hinted at in that video, but one of the things they're working on is wearable illuminated. So not just a high vis that picks up light, but it actually emits light. So you, again, going back to my demolition fraternity, those guys working on overnight bridge demolitions and that kind of thing, to be able to see, that is a major contribution to safety. So yeah, I think that's a major step forward.
Yeah, and you know what, Mark? Don't forget rail. A lot of rail work at night time as well. Very, very dangerous because some of the times have to keep the lines open and whatnot. So being able to see where all your colleagues are as well is super important. But yeah, I love that. So nice one.
Right. I think it's that time. He may be small in stature, but he's a big deal in social media circles. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those that identify by other pronouns, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's Nick Drew o'clock.
Hi, it's Nick Drew here. Well, you join me here today in Cheadle in Staffordshire, and I've come to see Dave Vickers of Vickers Plant Services, who's just purchased this brand new Takeuchi TB217R. Don't forget the R, that's very important. So Dave, tell us a bit about why you bought this machine.
Okay, so groundworking company, work on new build sites, established in 2008. I've always run Takeuchi machines. I got a phone call from Parkway Plant Sales. He rung me up, told me that they've got a new product, a TB217R, and basically said, why don't you have it on demo, give it a trial, see what you think. So sent it down, Philip Oldham from Parkway, he sent it down to us, and it was no more than 10 minutes that it was on site. I rung him up and said, do us an invoice, we'll have it. It's brilliant, what a fantastic machine. With these new build sites, how challenging we are for room all the time, with the zero swing, just makes it absolutely perfect. Can't fault the machine, Nick.
Brilliant, classic Takeuchi then, and plenty of power and smoothness.
Yeah, so fantastic dozer power on the blade, that was a real big thing. Stable, even though it's zero tail swing, sometimes you get the nodding going on, but no, it's stable away, plenty of power digging. It's the perfect machine for us, and it's a Takeuchi, so gradability is fantastic.
So yeah, there you go. You're obviously doing a fantastic job here, so I'm going to let you get on. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
Gotta love that. And Dave is on tonight. I let him know he's going to be used, mate. And Dave, bloody good pair of lads. A pretty good looking pair of lads, said.
Absolutely.
Look, thumbs up from me, Mark. It's a definite thumbs up from me. You know what? It's really important that, and people don't understand why, we've come together as a three, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I've worked with Nick, and you've known Nick for many, many years. This is an operator-led industry, and Nick is there. He can ask the questions that matter. I can't operate anything. Last time I operated something, I crashed the whole operator challenge, broke to smithereens, and they didn't have any replacements. So I sidled off into the distance.
You sound a lot like me. Now, while that film was playing, we're going to come back to Nick and operators in a second. While that film was playing, our friend Louise Carney joined the stream. Not sure quite when we got that photograph of Lou, but good evening, Lou. Great to see you here. It is hard to remember a time, I think, when our main man, Nick Drew, wasn't a blogger, vlogger, and star of stage and screen. But as you rightly say, he was an equipment operator in a past life. And here at the Construction Collective, we are huge fans of the equipment operators. They are the unsung heroes of the industry. But I don't think there can be any doubt that the role of the equipment operator is likely to change in coming years. I was on a site recently, a demolition site in London recently, and I got to see, I think it was the first of its kind in the UK, a remote remotely controlled Bobcat skid steer loader. Let's take a look.
That's great, Mark. And look, I guess Bobcat are doing some great integration work. And what I like about Bobcat, Mark, is their integration work is absolutely focused on the operator experience. Who's operating that? Whether it's the person inside the cab, whether that's the person on the remote control that's on that big remote control hangy thing that we saw there, or whether it's actually their remote control new apps that are on their phones. You know, they've really, really thought about it, and they've got things like exclusion zones and stuff like that. So, you know, we saw there that machine was going underneath a part of that actual building where rubber was hanging off the edge. Well, you know, I don't care if you've got loads of protection or whatever. You don't want to be sending somebody into that environment inside a cab, do you? Let's be honest.
No, absolutely right. And I think that exemplifies what I was about to say, actually. The manufacturers we've featured in tonight's show and other shows as well have all made these huge and incredible technological strides. But for all of that technology to work and to actually have an impact on the industry, people need to be buying it and putting it to work. And it's great to see that people are doing precisely that. And I'm desperately seeking the video that backs up that very point. Peter, this one is you. Let's click the button.
Welcome to another Who's Investing slot, supported by Ritchie Brothers, the used equipment specialist. The guest today, folks, oh my goodness, I've read Lynch Leader. Yeah, just today, arrived this morning, and I got Chris Gill from Lynch on to the slot. I want to start you off. I know you're so eager to tell me about all the kit, but I want to start you off again with technology. You've done something different, haven't you? You've now created your own sort of machine control division, for want of a better word. Tell me about that. That's a lot of investment, and that's strategic, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So we started the division this time last year, so beginning of 2020. We recruited a brilliant guy called Paul Keenan, who come from Leica. We've had a number of projects that we've supported with machine control, and we've bought systems. We've done a lot of hiring of systems of some really good supply chain partners, but we always felt that we were giving the control to somebody else. By bringing the machine control division to the front and creating it, we're taking the control back. We've been able to install machines quicker. We've been able to purchase the right equipment at the right time. But more importantly, we've been able to back that equipment up whilst it's on site, sitting behind laptops, repairing machines that are 200-300 miles away from where they're based, which is absolutely brilliant for the customer. They're not waiting for somebody to travel. They're not letting somebody get stuck in the snow or anything like that. They're getting immediate response, immediate kind of reaction to the challenges that they've got, and then also getting them back to work. There's been a few gaps here with knowledge between what we've known, what our customers have known, what our operators have known. And by putting it in one place, we're able to help all kind of parts of the chain to make sure that that machine is efficient, is accurate, and is working to the best of its capabilities, along with the driver, the site, the engineer, and us as a business. So the first year has been a real success. There's a huge kind of fleet growth in the number of units we have, and really all shaped by a brilliant team.
I have folded this sort of Lynch Leader, folks. because when I was reading about it, you've got a few new additions to the fleet. Chris, tell me about the massive investment you guys have been making in plant and equipment. Tell me about it.
Our fleet is a great thing. It's a very organic fleet. It moves and it changes with the times. We try to be industry leading with our specification from the get-go, which I believe we are. We like to look at what's coming up purchasing wise, what machines we can bring into the fleet, and then go from there. So for 2021, we've made a clear investment in more hybrid excavators. So we've placed a large order with Komatsu, which will then, by kind of middle of 2021, when we've taken all of our machines, we'll have the biggest hybrid fleet in the UK, which is something we're very proud of. We're trying to lead from the front with the carbon challenge, the carbon crisis that we have as a country, as an industry, as a world. We're just trying to play a small part in making that a bit better. So big investment in hybrids, a big investment in stage 5 equipment as our fleet renewal takes place. We were one of the early adopters of stage 5, probably in 2018, when we bought the first few Komatsu 30s and 40-ton excavators in the country. Further investment in expanding our lorry fleet, so that's haulage, tippers and road sweepers, low loaders, high-abs. We've got huge demand across various projects for all of the different services that we offer, because we're not just a plant hire company. We've got a big fleet of lorries that support projects every day. But yeah, it's exciting times as always.
Fantastic. And guys, just to give you a rundown of that, they've got 34 new cats. They've got Hitachis and Encons together. They've got a Komatsu Stage 5 dozer. They've got a hybrid D6 XE, and they've got Hydreamer fleet of stage 5 equipment. Chris, you're doing some major investing. Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Now, folks, that's another great Who's Investing slot. Thanks to our supporters, Ritchie Brothers, the used equipment specialists. They want to do business with you. You can sell with Ritchie Brothers. You can buy from Ritchie Brothers, and you can even sell to Ritchie Brothers. They just want to do business with you, and you can find out more at rbauction.co.uk. Yeah, fantastic, Mark. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, that level of investment. You don't think Lynch Plant would like to invest in a small video show, would they? Just a thought. They seem to have money to burn.
You know what was really nice about that Lynch Leader, Mark? It was their 40th year anniversary edition. So it's sad to have an anniversary in these times, but really cool to be able to put something together, which they kindly sent me a copy of that. And, it's packed full of the story of Lynch. And that is a big story. It goes back, and it's a family business. It's still got, obviously, the founders involved, but the sons, Rob and Merrill, do spend a lot of time with me and Chris as well, talking about their business, but talking about the challenges that the industry faces. And I think, it's businesses like that they say Lynch Leader, but they are leaders in the industry. And this whole thing, again, I go back to the start, Hillhead Digital, decarbonisation. One of that little white machine there was a completely electric model. They've been investing in that. They're investing in all of this equipment, and they're doing that for one reason only, so that they can be the best on site that they can possibly be, and that they can actually prove that investment delivers productivity, efficiency, and it's better for the environment. And it's also, let's be honest, if you are in a shiny new Komatsu Stage 5 dozer, or that D6 XE, which I helped to launch a few years ago, by the way, that's an amazing piece of kit, then you're going to stay with Lynch. And in this industry where we're so desperate for good operators, having that equipment, having that culture, having that investment, and also doing the most important thing at the start for me was recognizing this division, bringing this new division into the business that fundamentally helps them deliver a much better service, helps them understand what's happening when and how fast they can go and deliver that. And that's been really, really great to see.
No, I absolutely agree. And this has been an eye-opener for me. When you see what Lynch are doing, we had Flannery's on one of the previous shows. We've had Plant Force on the show as well. The plant hirers are leading the way here, aren't they? They really are.
Yeah, and you know what's changed, Mark, is there's leadership in the sense of, oh, we'll get the best equipment, all the rest of it. But Chris really told us there that Paul they'd brought from Leica Geosystems into that division to set it up. They're investing in the expertise as well, these big players, and they're bringing in people from the likes of tier one contractors as well. I mean, to help understand that integration. And with the data and with the information that we can all bring to technology, what we're doing is we're closing that gap. We're intermingling the whole elements of the industry. And what we're doing is we're saying we're proving it through technology. So we have done that because it's GPS machine control, and there's the model, there's the as-built model, there's it's been delivered. We've done it efficiently because we didn't go and take all these people up and down the road. We actually fixed any issues with the GPS, like Chris said there, using a team that are on computers in our head office and that are highly skilled and trained, dialing in and sorting out. We've trained the operators, like going to the equivalent of like a school that we talked about earlier. And all of this is proof point to the tier one contractors and their customers like HS2 and Highways England, the government and major property developers, that we're doing it right. So therefore, pay the money that it's needed to do it right. Make sure that you understand in your business how we're doing it. So that integration and that collaboration comes in. Design the models that are right for machines to use and for the earthworks sector, and together we'll all benefit because the projects will be delivered on time, to budget, safer because the plant and people interface is reduced with technology. And the one thing that we've been able to say is it works because guess what was delivered early? The A14 project. Lynch did a lot of work on that with other players as well. Delivered early, under budget.
That is the proof in the pudding, isn't it? Really is.
Yeah.
Peter, that's about it. I've just checked, and the video cupboard is bare, so the show proper is pretty much over. But I do think it's worth a quick mention of how all this came to be. On Tuesday this week, I think the UK stopped for a day of reflection to mark the first anniversary of the first national lockdown, and obviously that reflection was focused upon those that we've lost and those that were left behind by the COVID crisis. And it also gave us another chance to say a thank you to the heroes of the NHS, which I think is timely as well. But in addition to all that, Tuesday also marked the first anniversary of my first ever live stream, which is tiny in comparison. If you remember rightly, you, me, and Nick had all just returned from ConExpo show in Las Vegas, and we happened to be on the same flight together. In fact, I think I've got a photograph of us, which was taken on after a quiet night out on the Strip. See, I'd like to claim I was the one in the middle, but the beard probably suggests I'm the little fella on the left there.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that really struck us, I mean, looking back, I don't think any of us really understood just how big and how serious COVID was. But you, me, and Nick returned from Las Vegas determined to collaborate. And that's how this show came to be, isn't it?
Yeah, it did, Mark. And it was a fluke. Me and Nick were flying on the same flights, but it was an absolute fluke that you were in Gatwick on the flight there and on the flight back. And obviously the flight there was delayed, so we got chatting about what you were doing, this, that, and the other. Obviously known each other for years, but we never had a proper chat like that in that context of going to a big show. My first ever show, going to ConExpo, and doing it, I thought, with my best mate Nick in the industry, was going to be the best thing ever, and it was. But actually what we discovered is actually how we could work together as a three. And I know I was on a podcast recording of yours as well, which you invited me to come on, and that was great. But then what we did is we got to ConExpo, and well, someone went that way and went that way, and I went that way, and we met up a bit and this, that, and the other. And then we came back and we spoke to each other when again we were in Las Vegas airport hours and hours early, praying that our flight was going to go on the Sunday and we were going to get locked down by Trump on the Monday. And we explained what we did, and we all patted each other on the back to say, oh, God, you did this, that. And then we sat back and went, what on earth were we doing? You know, we've all ran around doing the same thing, trying to get the exclusive, the scoop, the better footage, the better picture, when actually, if we'd have worked together, we could have done the whole show in a much better, much bigger, much more impactful way for the people that it matters to. And those are the people like Alexander that's come on and really been a new person tonight and really engaged with us, and our regulars like Ken and Louise and Nick and everybody else. And we're like, we've got to do better than this. You know, we're coming back to an industry that's saying you've got to collaborate, you're going to build back better. We actually wanted to come back better and do a better job for the people that pay us to do our job and for the people that want to consume it. And that's why we're here today. And, you know, we put all things to one side. We put our big boy pants on and we said, what are we going to do about it? And we said, we're going to do this. And, you know, you encouraged me in particular to start podcasting. Never done that before at all. You know, we get on site and work together on numerous different things since. And now the show comes together and there are exciting things that are going to happen to this show. Yes, it's online at the moment. This show will come live to you. We've got things that we can't talk about right now because they're in the planning phases for next year that are going to be awesome. It's like my sweetie shop in all a great big digger bucket, you know, and basically things are going to change. And what the Construction Collective is about is bringing other people in. We had a packed show today, so we didn't bring in our great friend Dale Hawkins, who works for Plant Force, but is our digital operator specialist. But we will bring in other people. We'll also bring in other people globally. And we give people a voice and give people the opportunity to tell us about what's going on in the industry and ask the big important questions that we've got to get our muddy boots on and find out. You know, we're just an enabler. It's the audience that matters, Mark.
I think that's so important to. I mean, if that's going to be our closing note, then so be it. I think that's an important point. We chose the name Construction Collective. Obviously, there are the three of us and my son Fred, who does a lot of the video work. So you know, we are a four. But that collective term, you people that are watching this, you are part of that collective. And Peter's point about, you know, I've spent 32, 33 years trying to get scoops, trying to get one over on my fellow journalists. Who stands to gain from that? That's just stroking my ego. You know, ultimately, my job as a journalist and as a video presenter and you know, all the other things I do is to deliver the news. I shouldn't be trying to make sure that the reader of another magazine or the listener to a podcast or the viewer of another video doesn't get that information. I want everybody to see it. That's why we do that. That's why this is live. That's why we put it all on YouTube. That's why if anybody, you know, we get phone calls on a regular basis. Can we use your video? Help yourself. Take it away. Use it. Do what you like with it. Because, you know, in a very, very small way, we are helping to inform and to educate and occasionally to entertain as well. That's our role. You know, we're just a conduit. That's all we are.
And Mark, have fun. We've got to have fun. It's been a difficult year, difficult time for everybody. We have to have fun. And we have to do these things in an engaging and fun way. And we have to, no matter how we're feeling, how tired, what we're doing, we have to get up, get out there, get things moving, and actually have fun and bring some entertainment so that the audience can come back. Because I don't want to be shouting in a loud room. A loud room, an empty room, Mark. I don't want to be shouting in an empty room. It's a loud room if I'm shouting, believe me. But, you know, it really is exciting to see how this is growing. It's exciting to see how people like Lynch, how people like Digbits, how people like Miller, how people like Hillhead Digital, how people like Rammer, how people like the Foss guys, how people like, you know, Leica Geosystems are recognizing that they can help our viewers, and in turn, we can help them to educate, which is great.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to call it a day there. I'm going to be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. for my daily news show. The Construction Collective will be back in April. We haven't fixed the date yet, but we will be back in April. But as Peter has rightly said, and as we say every time, you know, I've liked being here. I'm sure Peter's liked being here. I'm sure the guests have enjoyed their part. But chiefly, it's you guys, the people that are watching this, the people that are leaving the comments and that are sharing the videos. That's why we do it. So we really appreciate you being here. We will see you again as a collective next month. I don't know what that refers to, but we've just had a last-minute comment in there. Okay.
Look, Joe Nelson's been on my podcast, mate. He's awesome.
Absolutely. In that case,
Joe Nelson.
Any friend of yours is a friend of mine and a friend of the show's. So I'm going to switch off now. Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks for being here, and we will see you again in April with a fresh new show. And thanks Peter.
Thanks, Mark. Ta-ra, Nick.